This podcast is brought to you by our amazing supporters at Patreon. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s to find out how you can get bonus episodes of the show, more than 26 of them right off the bat when you sign up at the $5 tier, and your own RSS feed, so you don't even have to change from your favorite podcast player. That's patreon.com/dissectingthe80s to find out how you can support this show and get more episodes of it, including, coming up on Christmas Day, a commentary for The Nightmare Before Christmas. Patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and joining me, setting the Candy-ed Yams on the Thanksgiving table, a man whose overnight packing makes Laura Claiborne's weekend packing look minuscule, the Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. And I have before packed a toiletry duffel bag in my life.
This week's opener there, perhaps the deepest cut in the history of the show in relation to the specifics from this film that is pretty underseen from my understanding.
Could be, yeah, sure.
We are, of course, second film entry in our annual John Candy Festival, Candy-ed Yams, here in November. We watched Delirious, and you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your magic typewriter. Someone get us your magic typewriter.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So a thing that I have, I think that I was hoping for in this sort of Candy-ed Yams thing, much like the Tom Hanks thing.
Wait, do you want to do the plot synopsis now or right before we start?
I
didn't know how I was like, I have a feeling you were going to start volleying a lot because...
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Delirious is a movie in which John Candy plays a showrunner of a soap opera who gets conked in the head and wakes up inside his soap opera. And he has the whole movie is sort of an extended dream sequence in which he has a magic typewriter. Although the movie gets really weird about the magic typewriter, which we will dig into later in this episode. But functionally, he has sort of like a reverse It's a Wonderful Life situation. /
WandaVision / Sucker Punch. Like there's a lot of...
Okay.
A lot of
you're making references
similar
like,
things.
Shoo, shoo, whizzing past me. Woo, woo. I'm standing naked on the battlefield, just whizzing past me, these references. But he gets conked on the head and spends some time in his soap opera where, the normal rules of reality don't seem to apply. So that's Delirious from 1991.
Also an episode of Sabrina.
Pew, pew,
you never watched
pew.
Sabrina with me?
TGIF,
man.
Netflix Sabrina or the Netflix Sabrina or the ABC?
No, the ABC
Sabrina?
Melissa Joan Hart Sabrina.
Oh, okay. I did watch that. Yes. Okay. I mean, I don't necessarily remember.
I think it was definitely an early season because she was still in high school, so it was probably like 2.
I could perhaps have my memory jogged, but anyway, what I was gonna say is, when we did the Tom T. Hanks giving, part of it was one, this pun is funny, and 2, this guy's got a lot of movies I haven't seen. I'd like to sort of fill in my gaps a little bit. And ultimately with Tom Hanks, it was most of the stuff I hadn't seen in the 80s, I was like, eh.
There's a reason I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah. I mean, there's Bachelor Party has some things in it that have aged poorly from social standards, but had I seen that when I was 10, I probably would have thought it was pretty funny. The whole, they got the goat or the donkey or whatever, all that stuff. It doesn't do a great job with people who aren't straight and white.
Or men.
As many movies of that era do. But Mazes and Monsters is kind of fun.
Yeah,
that's
a little novelty.
Yeah. And so, with John Candy, I had, and I think we may have even talked about this on the podcast before. I'm sure we have, so I apologize for rehashing old material, but I don't remember what we talked about. So, our family had the John Candy movies that were our family's movies. We did The Great Outdoors,
Summer Rental.
and we did Uncle Buck, and those three were like the primary sources for Candy Yam. There may be another one or two that I'm forgetting. Mom is probably like furiously typing a text message to the two of us right now.
Those are the big three of John Candy, like the John Candy vehicles.
And I would say like Uncle Buck was in third. Like nobody disliked it, but like we watched
Great
Summer
Outdoors
Rental pretty consistently. Great Outdoors is number one. Yeah, and Planes, Trains, Automobiles also. Like
see that one. That one, I guess because it's a little older skewing.
Mm-hmm.
I just that one is not really like on my radar as much.
Yeah, but I have like a lot of fondness for him as a performer.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he was like, you know, a very gifted performer who brought me a lot of laughs. And so it's like, all right, well, there's all these movies of his I haven't seen. Like, this is a good excuse to sort of roll through them on the podcast. I'm like, man, like so many of them are bad. Like, you know, and it's like,
so
I don't know.
Are you saying you think this one is bad?
I wanted to love this movie, and I found myself just kind of like at it. And like I knew Nothing But Trouble last episode was going to be that, because like I've seen that movie before and I know I don't care for it.
Yeah.
But with this one, I was like, you know, we were between this and another one, and I picked this one because it was easy to access. It's
on Tubi.
Oh, is it?
Or
okay.
Pluto. It's on one of the
that.
free with ads streamers.
Okay.
I think maybe Pluto.
Because it was on my free no ad library streaming service, so I was like, oh great, you know, this is wonderful. And I like his performance in this quite a bit. The movie just kind of is like and I do think like had I watched this instead of Summer Rental or Great Outdoors, would I feel differently? Almost certainly, right?
Yeah.
Like if this had been one that I watched 10 times, I'd have some fondness for it. And there's some good jokes here, but I keep waiting for like one that I will like as much as the ones that I like, and I keep coming up short.
So
I'm just like,
we're never gonna get that. I feel like we should just acknowledge that like the nostalgia goggles are always going to skew things higher.
100%, 100%.
And like, as much as we love John Candy, it's like if we didn't grow up like your wife has this a lot, where like if she didn't grow up with the thing, it's hard to introduce some things to people as an adult and be like, this is wonderful. And they're like, I mean, it's fine.
Right. Like she asked about the Goonies and I was like, I'm not even going to bother. Like there's just there's absolutely no reason. Like someone had asked about the Goonies and then later she's like, what is that movie? And I was kind of explaining to her and I was like, there is like -% chance that you will like that movie having seen it for the first time as an adult. Like it's just a kid magic movie. It's like, you know,
I mean, I guess if you know, it's like, if you preface like, this is a kid magic hijinks movie.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's just never gonna feel the way it does. You know, when you watch it when you're 10. But I do want to like just the mildest of pushback though is like I discover stuff that I've not seen before and that I love from this era and the 90s like all the time. Like I'm constantly finding movies that, and for the podcast even, that I'm like, I've never seen this, I'd like to watch it, and then I'm like, this movie fucking rules. And so it's like, man, John Candy had no hidden bangers. Like I saw all of this.
So I guess my follow-up question
he made
to
so
that
many movies.
is how many of those movies are like truly like no one talks about them, or it's just like, or were they, how many of those versus how many of those were like they're popular, just not really, you just never saw them kind of a thing?
I don't know specifically, but the one that like comes to mind is like I watched Hard Target for the first time. And like, I know I speak too much on this podcast about a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, but like that movie fucking rules. And like everybody unanimously is like Bloodsport is the one good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Which is the one we watched?
Well, we're about to do Hard Target was the one we watched for my bachelor party
where
he's like down in the bayou. We're about to do Bloodsport, which is the one that everybody is like, oh, this is the number one, but it looks like a martial arts movie, which is not necessarily my cup of tea. And so I'm always like, where's the love for Hard Target? That movie fucking rules. Like it's so good. So I don't know. It could be just that like, you know, I'm tickled by dad movies from 1994. You know, that's also very
entirely possible.
But I was just trying to think about it. It's just like, what is the deal here? Like, what's, you know, what, there's not,
and obviously I'm not saying that like you only will love movies you grew up with, but it's just, it is generally it's a smaller hole to shoot through when when you're like, it's an uphill battle, I guess, if we're going to mix metaphors.
I just find it really interesting that with both Hanks and Candy together, there's not a single one so far, you know, anyway, for Candy, and Hanks was, you know, multiple years, that there was not one that I hadn't seen before that I was like, oh, this actually rules, you know?
Yeah.
I figured with the two of them, the odds were it had to be good that we would do that eventually.
Yeah, because like there's been Candy movies that were like, this is fun. It's not like it's not going to replace Summer Rental in a rotation.
Sure.
Like Harry Crumb, I think we didn't hate. I think we thought that was fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, Harry Crumb, I think, is like exactly as good as the two that we hold in high esteem, and it just is one that we didn't watch, so that we won't do that.
Yeah.
I think this is probably like, I guess, about on par with a Harry Crumb. Hadn't really thought about the two of them next to each other, like in the same universe. They're probably like within a point of each other.
Okay.
Did you disagree?
I
like
liked this movie. To
be clear, I didn't hate this movie. This is like a down the middle 3 out of 5 for me.
I liked this movie and I loved the concept. I just didn't. I just think it needed some rewrites, which obviously.
Yeah. It's kind of all over the place. As I mentioned already, like the magic typewriter thing isn't really set up in the right way, and it should be better.
No, yeah, and like, kind of like obviously it's a movie, and so like they're telling their story and their budget and whatever, but like. You're telling me that he found a magic typewriter and the first thing he did wasn't, I have superpowers, I have magic powers?
Sure.
Because if that's me, the first thing I'm typing is, Andrew then realized he had the chaos magic of the Scarlet Witch with all the control over it and none of the downside part.
If it's me, I'm writing, Trip looked to his right and found the perfect cheesesteak and plate of french fries with an ice cold Coke Zero with like spitting the little bubbles out of the perfectly.
So you want a movie theater ad, Coke Zero?
I just yes, exactly.
You want the Regal Cinema ad?
Yes,
Coke Zero,
yes,
where it's exactly a macro lens, and it is just like basically it looks like lava that's been blue colored, that's been brown colored.
100%. But that it's just like, what do I want right now? Trip turned to his right and found 4 fresh from the oven chocolate chip cookies and icy cold milk right next to him.
Andrew found himself in 1996 Tomorrowland, going in line for extraterrestrial.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
And I think that's what I love about this kind of movie is that like it's a capsule. Like there's no expectation or like whatever that he's supposed to like fix the world, because with like the magic wand, what like time machine, whatever, if you're like you don't say kill Hitler or like whatever, you're a bad person. But like
I think part of the genius of this is setting it in the world of the soap, because then you like Hitler's off the table.
Yeah, all like so there's none of that like impetus that like I need to change what no, it's a very small corner of the world.
Why didn't you fix world hunger or whatever?
Yeah, like
it doesn't exist in this
because
soap opera.
He's in Stars Hollow of Gilmore Girls, basically.
Right.
Because, magic powers is the first thing I'm typing if I find out I have a magic typewriter. Sorry, that's the first thing I'm giving myself.
Trip picked up the string cheese he had gotten for a snack and found that every single pull was identical, and it was 88 pulls. It took him forever to finish the cheesesteak in a way that was so satisfying. There was not one rogue fat pull that split the cheesesteak in half, but each one pulled exactly the same as the predecessor.
See, I'm a fan of the swirly kind, where it's like half Mott's, half cheddar.
You can't peel the cheddar. You don't get the string.
No, you don't. The cheddar doesn't peel great, but
yeah, I don't care for it. I gotta have a string. That's the whole point of eating a string cheese.
But you can string half of it.
My wife thinks I'm gonna turn into a cheese stick because it's all like
you're gonna be that mascot guy who looks like something out of Pajama Sam.
But I'm like, I find it very satisfying. It's a snack and an activity. It's a snacktivity.
It is. It's like a Twizzler pull and peel, the big kind. Yeah.
Except much better for you.
Well, obviously.
But no, I'm with you. I did not think of magic powers, but just like the ability to conjure just dumb shit all the time would be very delightful to me.
Yeah, because obviously I thought WandaVision with the idea that like it's a small town where like it's a magic bubble of one person's kind of controlling thing. I was like, yeah, no, this obviously hard left, but like similar concept conceit at the macro level.
Here's the real one for you. Trip picked up the remote and knew exactly what he wanted to watch.
Oh, I don't even think it would work. I think that one would be like, no, I can't do that one. Everything else we're saying, it's like, sure. And that would like, it's like, I got nothing. I can't do that one, buddy.
Trip walked over the DVD shelf and he saw exactly what movie he was in the mood for, highlighted by the light. And he picked it out and watched it and was so satisfied.
So the interesting thing, hang on. They like kind of hint at it in this movie, but they don't really do anything with it, but it's sort of acknowledged. In the Sabrina episode where like Sabrina makes a magic typewriter, finds a magic typewriter to do her school paper on, where she has to like write a creative story, and then the characters all come to life and they answer like, oh, you have to like, and so all of her real world friends are in the high school, and then they're also all playing like characters in her spy novel.
Does she get like a magic typewriter?
I can't remember if she like finds it in the attic or she like zaps one in.
That's finding it in the attic feels right, like it's the aunt's typewriter.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant.
I think that's what it was, but they're like, you have to, if you wrote this in, you have to write it away. And so she immediately goes, all right. And then the bad guys left and everyone was happy, and the characters don't do it. And they're like, well, it has to be like believable. Like it has to make sense. You can't just type nonsense because the characters will reject it. And in this movie, that kind of like gets acknowledged that some of them are like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This doesn't make sense. Yes. But they don't fight it. Whereas, like, in Sabrina, it's fully just, like, they reject it if it doesn't actually make sense for the character, which I think is an interesting kind of level to this.
Totally. There's, like, one sequence in this where they run through, like, 4 people having bizarre motivations, and they're all like, I don't know why I'm doing this. And the one character is even like, why are you doing that right now? And it's like, I don't know. I wish I couldn't.
Yeah. And it also, like, I just, this concept, I like. I like this idea. I like layers. Yeah. It's like what's like a sucker punch. There's 3 layers when you really look at it, which is this movie, which is the real world, these actors, and then there are actors who are then playing roles in this fantasy.
Yeah, right. Well, let's roll through it, and we can pick up more of these threads along the way. We start with Prince, which is always a good sign.
A theme? Is this written for the movie?
I don't think so. I don't know that. I did not look that up, but I don't believe so. I think this was just a Prince song.
Okay.
And we start with Candy having a fight with the cable company, and a very small day player part for Mark Boone Jr., who I think stopped cutting his hair like exactly after this.
Who is this? What do I know him from?
You definitely know who this guy is from. He had a pretty substantial part on Sons of Anarchy, but he plays like goons. He has do you know Workaholics? You know like what that is?
I know the show. Yeah, I know of it.
You know how one of them has like a signature hair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Mark Boone Jr.'s hair is quite similar, except it's like greaseball guy. Like he plays thugs and gangsters and things like that.
Huh.
A critic and podcaster that I listen to sometimes, one of the Blank Check hosts, called him a piece of pizza wearing a wife beater as like what he is, and that is like almost exactly right as the characters he plays.
Okay.
Yeah, but he plays scuzzy dudes. He's got this like very similar to the Workaholics guy, like this huge curly mop of hair, but his is like mostly gray, black to gray at this point. But he plays, I think he's in one of the Batman Nolan movies, or a couple of them, as like, featured thug.
Got it.
Type
okay.
Role.
Thug with a couple lines.
Yeah. So he had a pretty big role in Sons of Anarchy, but he was like the 7th guy on Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He's a guy who works a lot. I don't know off the top of my head other things you might particularly know him from, but I think our audience is probably pretty likely to know Mark Boone Jr. from other things. But he's only in this movie for 30 seconds as this cable guy. Probably a nice payday for him. Got himself
got a nice Sandy from Crafties.
Maybe he got his insurance for the year off of it. I'm doing a quick check here. 30 Days of Night, Memento.
Oh,
Quick and the Dead.
I think I know who he is in 30 Days of Night.
Okay.
Assuming he had the long hair.
I truly only like when I saw him with his haircut, I was like, whoa, he must have just like this movie, and then he was like, I'm never cutting my hair again.
It's been a second since I've seen 30 Days, but I like that movie, and I think I know that character that he would be.
Yeah. So he fixes the cable, and then he offers him like
to steal him some cable
to steal some cable, which I feel like was a thing. Like the cable guy would do this for you.
I mean, yeah, if you were nice to him.
But But what's funny is Candy being like, "Oh, they'll catch me," and it's like, "Well, what do they do? Just turn it off, right? Like,
what do they
else-
back
what can
charge?
they do? Yeah, but like, couldn't you play dumb? Like, I didn't do it. I don't know how that happened.
I mean,
Like it's not
fair.
like, yeah. So anyway, so he fixes his cable, and then we get Mariel Hemingway, and we just get this mishap palooza with her. We bump into her.
Well, first we when the cable comes back on, he turns the channel to a soap opera that's like, oh, he's obsessed with soaps. Oh, he writes for soaps.
Yes.
And then we run into human disaster. What was it?
Mariel Hemingway.
Mariel Hemingway.
Granddaughter, I believe, of Ernest Hemingway.
Oh.
Who we have seen in a couple of other things along the way, but I did not write them down, so I'm going to just move on. But she's been on other things we've covered on the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
And we've made the Nepo baby jokes, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm. Although the writer, it's not like Ernest Hemingway was like a big script writer, right? Obviously, he's still a very famous author or writer, whatever
just
we call him.
Incredibly famous is all. Was in Superman 4 way back in February. That one's probably in the archives. But anyway, he bumps into her. He steps on her hand.
I keep thinking she's Daryl Hannah. Weird.
Oh, she's like sort of a budget Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. Like
I mean, I don't know. At the time, perhaps they cost the same amount of money, but almost Daryl Hannah.
No, this is 91. Splash happened, so I think Daryl Hannah's probably a big ticket right now.
This is your Temu Daryl. We have Daryl Hannah at home.
Yeah, Spirit Halloween Daryl Hannah.
Did you see that they're now doing Christmas stuff?
It's a pilot program. They only did 10 stores.
Okay.
And they're all on the East Coast, but just far enough away from me that I can't go. It's very annoying.
Okay.
I was like, come on, bring one to Philly, or like at least.
I was like, Spirit Christmas. What are we doing?
So, they're all owned by. Well, Spirit Halloween is
it makes complete
owned by
sense.
Spencer's, so they're just like doing whatever they want, and so they're like, if we can sell some Spirit Halloween stuff in a Spencer's, why don't we sell some Spencer stuff in a Christmas store?
I mean, it makes total sense to have the Spirit of Christmas after Spirit of Halloween.
Well, that's the weird thing. It's not Spirit of it. The store's called Spirit Halloween, and so the other new store is called Spirit Christmas, which just doesn't.
Yeah, not great.
I don't know why it doesn't roll. It just doesn't.
This is much the same as Oreo s'mores instead of the better s'mores.
S'moreo. Oh my god! Right.
Corporate gets obsessed with no, we're Spirit Halloween, so now we have to be Spirit Christmas. It's like, no, you should be anyway. Whatever.
We'll call it Christmas Spirit.
Yeah, also good.
You have the Christmas. Yeah. People say that you have the Christmas spirit. Just call it Christmas Spirit. But you know what?
Yours is better.
I bet you can't trademark Christmas Spirit.
You probably can't, but Spirit of Christmas you probably could. Anyway, who cares? In addition to she gets her nails stepped on and they turn all weird. It really gave me the shivers to watch her nails get all accordioned. We get one of my favorite tropes of movie, and I thought this was interesting that this happens before the dream sequency part where her sleeve is ripped, and so she's like, well, and perfectly rips them at the seams, no issues whatsoever. They just pop perfectly off at the seams.
The first one he rips off accidentally when he helps her up, and it's like, well, how old and cheap and threadbare is this dress?
Yeah,
I've had clothes for years that have never ripped off at the sleeve.
Yeah, I one of my two primary workout shirts, or my walking shirts, are from 2004 and 2003 respectively. They're 21 and 22 years old.
Yeah,
ancient shirts.
As someone who sews clothes, do you know how not easy it is to just with your bare hands, just rip open a seam?
Well, also it's a funny thing. If you ever spent any time watching wrestling and guys ripping their shirts off, which was Hulk Hogan's signature, they cut the neck and they cut the bottom because it's really hard to rip those seams.
Yeah, those are unrippable basically.
Yeah, and so this is not the same.
Sometimes they'll give them a teeny tiny little hole in the middle, in between their pecs, so their fingers can get in there.
Yeah. But just very funny to watch someone perfectly tear. And as someone who was taking the sleeve off a shirt, you have to be pretty precise about it with the scissors so it looks nice, and it just perfectly pops at the seams. I love that trope. It's very silly to me.
Yeah.
So we meet with Jerry Orbach, who
and
I was
Renee Taylor.
Shocked to see Jerry Orbach in here. I was like, what's he doing?
Just coming off Beauty and the Beast and about to do Law and Order,
right.
probably.
always forget that he's Lumiere.
I thought at first I was like, wait, is he Cogsworth or Lumiere? Because with his voice, it could really go either way.
Yeah, but no, he's doing the like hokey ass French accent.
Yeah, he's Lumiere.
Insane.
And then his partner, wife, we don't know, is
it's implied husband and wife to me.
Is Renee Taylor, who is the nanny's mom, Fran Drescher's mom on The Nanny.
Okay.
And also Linda Belcher's mom in Bob's Burgers.
Oh, okay. She's a big Broadway person, right?
I think she probably was at one point. I don't know her from Broadway, but it probably is like older Broadway shit.
Gotcha. I could be making that up then. If you don't know, I'm going to assume I got that wrong. They're like, look,
I love them, and I wanted more of them in this movie.
Yeah, so to me, it feels like there's like scenes deleted here where it's like, look, we're struggling in the ratings. We're going to bring in this ringer, this like known quantity who's going to take care of it, bring us back to glory. And this is where it makes sense for John Candy to go to Chinatown and visit the guy who sells him a gremlin. AKA a magic typewriter. Like, this is the part where like John Candy has to go, like he finds it in a dumpster. Somehow he has to come upon the magic typewriter, and that is.
So are you saying then scrap the dream sequence aspect entirely?
No, I think I'm fine with the dream sequence, but there needs to be a magic typewriter because the magic typewriter works in the real world. And it also is something like it works in the dream sequence where he's like, oh, look, my typewriter's magic. But then he goes home, he wakes up, and then his typewriter is magic.
I didn't get that his typewriter was still magic.
He explicitly says, I wrote her a new ending, though.
He made fun of Cleveland in the dream, and then in the real world, the bitch ended up in Cleveland on like a local game show.
I thought he said, I wrote her a new ending at the end, which made me
for
think
Rachel, the villain?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I didn't catch that.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of there being a magic typewriter and not a dream sequence of like...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, either
he's just in his office like,
sequence...
can't think of something. He's like, I don't know. And then Denise brought me a sandwich. And then Denise walks in and is like, oh, they gave me 2 sandwiches at the deli. Do you want one? Like...
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good too. I would be up for that.
But I think this in better hands, obviously, but I kind of want this to be more of a mini series where like we can get 2 20-minute episodes in this real world, 2 or 3 20 minutes in this dream world, and then a whole 20 minutes at the end back in the real world where we can kind of like catch up with everybody and like see all the things. Because he very quickly, it's as if that they had a tight deadline and they were like, we have the studio for 20 more seconds, so you have to get in the booth now. And he was like, and then this happened, and then everyone had a happy ending. Bye.
Yeah. It definitely feels like a movie that got cut a lot because the final voiceover does a lot of explaining of what's happening.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We get a bunch of big time soap opera silliness. We've got like the doctor, saying insane things and like someone's got a brain tumor and another person's waking up from a coma. And it's all like, ridiculous soap opera stuff. And then we get a scene with John Candy and Laura Claiborne. I think I wrote that down right. Mm-hmm. Who is the actress. And then soon we will see her only as her soap character, but here she is the actress who plays the soap character.
And it's basically the same person.
Yes. But she has John Candy like wrapped around her finger. It's like a real, I always think of that line from Forgetting Sarah Marshall where the bartender says to Jason Segel's character, like, oh, I bet you think strippers like you too. Of just like, because he's flirting with a hospitality worker and he's like, yeah, of course she is. That's her job. And it's like, this actress is just like playing Candy like a fiddle. And she's like, oh, you're the only one who understands me. And I'm like, she is an actress. She is doing a performance.
Trying to keep her job, which respect that. I respect that hustle, but also.
But it's not even that though, because she's like, oh, thank you so much that you got me the refrigerator. And he walks into her dressing room and it's like a full
industrial
restaurant
fridge.
Yeah. And he's like, I thought you meant an office fridge. And he opens it and there's a single apple and a single yogurt.
It's a yogurt and I thought it was a bottle of water and a yogurt. Like it's exactly the kind of things you put in a mini fridge.
Yeah.
So he's getting frustrated that Renee Taylor and Jerry Orbach are bringing in a new character that he said he didn't want, and he thinks they're also talking to this other writer who's kind of a hack but successful, I guess. Kind of hard to tell.
I think it's like he's a very successful soap writer, and John Candy thinks he's above using the standard soap tricks. Like he makes fun of the fact that all of this guy's characters have brain tumors and all this
comas
stuff.
and switch to birth and all that.
Yeah.
And
the actress is like a real Jenna Maroney prototype from 30 Rock.
She needed to be more Jenna Maroney, frankly.
Yeah.
But the woman, what, Mariel Hemingway?
Mariel. It's like Muriel, but it's an A.
Okay. Mariel Hemingway. She was coming in to audition for this new character that Renee and Orbach wanted to bring in. So that's sort of an impetus for all of this. And he goes home and he's frustrated. And his other writer friend, who kind of like might as well not be in this movie, frankly.
Yeah, he's barely here. And I didn't write down this actor's name, but he is like a very recognizable character actor.
Like, get him more to do or get him out of there.
Yeah. Well, also, like, why doesn't he have a weird part in the dream sequence, right? Like,
yeah, like when he went to Oz, he did not. There was no this other writer friend.
Yeah. Oh, also, this is our Wicked tie-in.
Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect.
This is our Wicked tie-in.
I'm
popular.
I'm very curious to see this movie and see what was added to Act 1 that made it 5 minutes shorter than the entire musical on Broadway.
My wife likes the musical, and we saw the trailer, and she's like, I love that musical. And I was like, fuck, do I have to go see this movie? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I brought up like a week ago, I was like, so do you want to go to Wicked or what? And she was like, I thought it looked bad. And I was like, yes.
Who is it? Wait, your wife?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'll see it with her.
I will go to the movies with her. That's not the issue. I just was like, oh, I'm not going to like this movie and it's long. And then she was like, I don't want to see it. And I was like, yay.
It's too long, but I think it's going to be good. But you ever go before December 25th, because that's when they're starting sing-along screenings. Like,
oh, wow.
Sanctioned sing-along screenings.
They are like sure they have a hit here. I just don't see it. I really will be curious.
Well, I mean, it's like the new Mega Smash Broadway thing.
I know, but like Mean Girls was a Broadway smash too, and
no, it wasn't a smash. Mean Girls did well, but they pulled that plug real quick.
I mean, Cats is the longest running musical of all time.
Yeah, well, they everything that like makes Cats interesting, they took out of the movie, which is why that movie tanked so hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Makeup, costumes, choreography, and they're like, what if it's all CGI?
We'll see. I think the movie looks very poopy. It's not very well designed. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Wicked. We're here to talk about this movie, which is our Wicked tie-in, Delirious. He's on the phone with the Jenna Maroney type, and he's handling this priceless record, which, like, I knew where this was going, and I was like, this guy, if there were only 2 of these records in existence, and he's this type of collector, he would not ever put this on a turntable.
No,
it would
never.
It would stay in a sleeve. Like, this is not, like, what are you talking about? This is insane. And so he's like on the phone with her and he's holding the record and she's like, I'd like to go away with you for the weekend. And he's like, humana what? And drops it. And there's like a very theatrical record.
It's like a vase.
Sound.
It's like a crash box sound.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm going away for the weekend to get to, bid on some records. And when they do this kind of thing, like in the first season of Ryan Murphy's Feud with Betty Davis and Joan Crawford is doing this to someone because she thinks he's paying more attention to the other actress and is just trying to sleep with him. Like, okay, it's like a very clear subterfuge of like, this is happening, so I have to do this to make this happen so I can win. But like, I don't know what she's doing here. Like, it's not like word got through the cast that they were going to get rid of her character.
Right.
Which was implied in a scene early, like in the office with Renee Taylor and Jerry Orbach. But like, I needed like a PA to overhear that or like, and say something.
Sure.
Or like they were leaning on the speakerphone and it went into another room. Like, I needed something that says why she's doing this, because like, I don't know. Like,
honestly, it could be as simple as her, like, some other character says something to her of like, why are you like kissing up to this guy? And her being like, he's the head writer. Like I want to I want him to think that you know what I mean? Like I want him to think it's possible so that I have a job and I get good parts or whatever. Like just something, because it's clear that she's not actually interested in him, and
exactly.
And she's very aware that he's interested in her. And so she's just like using this to her advantage, but we can't really see to what end because she's already the star of the show and getting the good parts and the juicy lines. And yada, yada.
We needed an impetus here. Because she's like, oh, I broke up with this guy, and then they're making out on the sidewalk. And it's like, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to John Candy, but like her going away for the weekend with John Candy is not going to make the doctor guy jealous.
Right.
Like
unless it's from like a professional standpoint of like, oh, she's getting cozy with the director, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, it could be. Like that's what it should have been. It should have been, I'll have him write you off the show.
Yes.
If this is how you're going to be, I'm going to go away with John Candy for the weekend, and I'm going to have you written off the show. Like that, I just needed stuff.
Yeah, she has no motivation as a character. It's just like she's Miss Piggy and she has too many suitcases,
which I love. I'm here for that, but also give me something.
It is also so he starts loading the suitcase in the trunk. This is when like the knockout happens, and
this is my luggage.
Yeah, it is honestly almost identical to his scene in Spaceballs with the suitcases, but you called it a furious makeout, which it was funny. The thing that
I don't think I said furious. I just
hardcore. Oh, okay, maybe okay. I thought you used the same word I did.
No,
but they are like vacuuming into one another. It is like
it's like they're in
black
high school.
holes colliding. It is uncomfortable to look at.
And then John Candy hits his head on the trunk, which happened to my husband. I think the first time we flew to Disney World.
It was like a top attack though, right? Not an under the chin.
Yes, but it was the same kind of. So this guy's trunk, I guess the whatever mechanism that's in there in like on the arm part that holds the trunk open when you pop it open was broken. So I opened the trunk and it popped open and slammed back down immediately, but we didn't know it was going to do that. So it popped open and he leaned in and it came down on his eye.
Right. His was from the, I knew his was coming
It came
down,
from, but it was a normal, it was a regular like regular like sedan trunk, but it popped open, he leaned in and it came slamming right back down onto his eye. And I was like, hey, buddy, I'm not going to do I'm not going to sue you, but someone very well could if they were that kind of person because of your trunk. So you should really be aware of that.
It was a rental?
No, it was an Uber.
Oh.
We Ubered to the airport and we were getting our stuff out of the trunk.
Yeah. But yeah, there he gets conked. He wakes up and the doctor is standing over him. And
do you no he drives, they show him then driving to Vermont alone.
That's
which
right.
I don't think they needed.
No,
like I because even then I was like, there's no way that this, like I don't.
I think it's supposed to imply it's part of the vision because when he's driving, it's like so Hitchcocky, like the rear and side projection thing.
And
like,
the music
he's
kind
got
of
driving
string
he's
heavy.
Got driving gloves on, and he's like doing like furious elbow driving. So like it made me think that we were supposed to know, but it is not as obvious as just like he wakes up and the doctor is there.
Yeah, because I think that would have been easier for the end. Like when he wakes up and back in Kansas in his bedroom, like
yeah.
So because I think it also would have been smoother for him, like if he's right outside the studio or near the studio when this happens, it would make sense that he would think he would be there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I didn't even realize like when we get the Oz moment at the end, I didn't realize this was happening directly in front of the studio. I guess Candy lives in an apartment or hotel adjacent to the studio.
I think he lives near the studio because the doctor's right there, and like it seems weird.
Right.
I don't know. Or maybe he was picking her up at the studio.
I guess that could be.
But he wakes up in Ashford Falls, which is the setting of his soap. And it fully just looks like the Gilmore Girls town or the WandaVision town with the which to me is not that. This town doesn't feel soap opera-y. I'm not a big soaps guy, but
I think Gilmore Girls is like a primetime soap. Like
yeah, but this isn't a prime. This is a daytime soap.
A daytime. Yeah, I mean I have not watched enough of them to have an accurate assessment. I assume most of the sets are like interior of either the hospital for the general hospital or interior of the house for something like Passions or something.
Yeah, I was the gazebo of it all. I was like, this doesn't.
My high school girlfriend's grandmother watched Passions, and so she watched Passions occasionally, and I've seen an episode or two of Passions, and that is about.
Is it the one with magic in it?
Yes,
one of them.
I think it's long canceled. It had like witches and stuff.
Yeah, because I kept seeing it on Peacock, and it's like 75 seasons, 8,000 episodes.
1,984 episodes. Yeah, it's very funny when you look up an actor, especially like the influx of Australian actors and stuff. A lot of them got their start on the soaps from Australia.
Mm-hmm. Margot Robbie.
Yeah, and you go scrolling through their IMDb, and it's like, movie, 10 episodes, 12 episodes, 20 episodes, 400 episodes of EastEnders or whatever the fuck it's called. I think that's the British one.
That's British, yeah.
So we have him like wake up and they think he's crazy. He's like, I'm on set. When did we build this? This is going to be so expensive. And they're all kind of like, oh, uh-oh. I thought this guy was fine. This is like real head trauma.
His tests look normal. And then he like opens they're like, we're in Ashford Falls, look out the window, and he's like expecting the window to be like a picture or like a poster or whatever, and he looks out into the town square.
Yep.
And immediately he's like, oh, okay, and he like kind of realizes what's going on, and he starts playing into it.
Right.
But then he's not playing into it. It's like he's very flippy floppy, which like if he was just like, oh, yes, doctor, I will surely do this for you. Like, just go along with it.
He does get there eventually and is like, no, you're a doctor, I'm a patient, I got hit on the head, I was in a car crash, and they're like, okay, well, you did just repeat all of the facts to me, but
then immediately after, when the nurse is wheeling him, he's like yelling at her like as if she's a character.
Right.
Like that's, and so I was like, well, which is it?
Yeah. Well, I think he is aware that he's in the soap, but it's like he's doing a bad job of playing along.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what's frustrating. It's like, it feels like he should just be like, all right, to get out of here, I have to like just play this game.
And he seems like a fairly smart character, so it's weird that he doesn't like grasp that. Yeah.
Especially since he's a showrunner on a soap and just wrote a new Bible for the show.
Right.
It's so, and then the Janet actress is here now, and she says he's Jack Gates, which everyone in the real world was talking about this new character he'd come up with, who's like a Wolf of Wall Street type guy.
Yeah. And he's like here to buy this formula that this new character played by Mariel Hemingway, her father, who's missing or dead, I think, had like created some sort of weight loss formula. And so, he was trying to buy that formula. Meanwhile, the rich heiress main actress who he's in love with, Hedison, that's right. They're a pharmaceutical owner.
Who knows?
They own a pharmaceutical company, so they're also trying to get this formula.
We see an evil eye patch villain in a red suit that I don't remember seeing in the real world. Was he there?
I don't remember seeing him in the soap that we see very briefly. No.
So I was like, well, it's not Dylan Baker, because Dylan Baker was another character, and I was like, so who the hell is this person?
Yeah, he does kind of pop up out of nowhere. It's Charles Rocket, who is a big comedian in the 80s. He was on SNL for like a season, I think, as part of the weird Lorne Michaels era. Died very young of suicide, unfortunately.
That's tragic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in his 50s, but still way too young.
Yeah.
But he's like a full soapy. He's got this eye patch on. And they do like...
I love this. This world is so like campy and dramatic, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun. We're gonna get a lot of." We just didn't get enough of that stuff.
No, you get two right off the bat here, where it's like, "If I even am your son, dun dun dun."
Yeah, I wanted more of that. Like,
mother, dun dun dun. Yeah,
like
yeah.
What I wanted was the classic soap opera move where you turn around from the person you're speaking with, so you can both be looking at the same camera at the same time, which saves money.
Sure.
Like, I wanted more of that stupid nonsense.
Yeah. It's like it plays just enough with that. It seems like they are trying to only hit the big strokes that like the general public knows who hasn't really watched a soap. But I feel like if you get more specific, it's always funnier, even if I don't understand the specifics.
Yeah, a joke that involves, a Pontiac Firebird versus a car. The Pontiac Firebird's always going to be funnier because it's just the details make things sillier.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I don't watch soaps, but like, I know to me a soap opera is overdramatic and ridiculous and high stress and high stakes.
Right. And like big reveals happen all the time. Like give me more. Like there is a big reveal in this with Mariel Hemingway that happens like act 3, I guess. But like, shouldn't there be one of them every 10 minutes if we're
like,
doing
I would have loved
the
the background characters. Like as they're walking by a cafe, someone throws wine in someone's face and like storms away.
Yeah.
Or like someone throws a glass on the ground and is like, how dare you? Like the whole town should feel soap opera-y.
Yeah. I'm with you. So we find out that John Candy's car is being repaired at Len's garage, and they I forget how they describe.
He says we got so many letters, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, I was like, I literally wrote, oh no, with like 9 O's, and then we see it, and it is a man who is wearing women's clothes, and that is all they really do in the thing. Like that's it. Like they don't say any mean words about this person. They don't, and it's like the joke is that they're there at all, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
But at the end, they like talk about it as if they did a good job with this character. So it's really hard to figure out what's happening, like what this movie is trying to do.
I genuinely was like, it was sort of like the movie froze, and I was like, is it going to be a white person in yellowface? Is it going to be a white person in blackface? Is it going to be a black person doing blaxploitation? Or is it the joke going to be that she is a lesbian?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect it was going to be this one, obviously.
Right. And it's like, what joke are you telling, movie? And it's like, oh, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, this is Len. He has a garage. And then Len picks up the phone and he's like, hello, Len's garage. I told you I don't have a radiator. Click. And it's like, okay, so
like it's
I'm not
just
sure what's happening.
it just would have been better if it would been like she was a butch lesbian and people just got mad about the fact that she was a butch lesbian.
Right.
Like just
right.
Short and stout and wearing overalls or coveralls or something.
Yeah. Or just make her like Roz from Monsters Inc.
Oh yeah, that too. Mm-hmm.
So there's like a big fight with Mariel Hemingway, and she's like, if you're a writer, write your way out of this. And he's like, aha. And he sits down to the typewriter, and he's like, suddenly he got a phone call, and the guy was like, I found the exact radiator in the back room, so I'm just going to put it in. Your car's ready. And then there's a really cool moment where we see like the text evaporate off the page, and then the phone rings.
So
and I was like,
before the phone rang, I thought we were doing the Sabrina thing. I was like, the typewriter is going to be like, no. Why would that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were gonna. There was gonna be something. I was like, the typewriter won't talk back unless the typewriter like types back to him.
Yeah,
and is like typing its own thing. But I was like, oh, that's why it disappeared. But it didn't. It just happens.
So I was like, oh, I like this setup. I hope it comes back, and it really doesn't. But I liked the idea of like it showing like, oh, this one worked, whoop, and it like disappeared.
That would have been a fun way to do that, like differentiate.
Yeah. Because like we could have then played with exactly what you talked about, where it like rejects some of his ideas and the words don't disappear.
Or if like, I mean, this would be a lot of effects. If like the letters fell off the page.
Yeah, anything like that would work. Yeah.
So Rachel shows up and gets a real Jessica Rabbit entrance.
They're in like full fox hunting getup, which is like they're going for a ride, but they're not wearing necessarily riding clothes. They're wearing fox hunting riding clothes.
Yeah. She's got the red jacket on, and she doesn't have the hat on.
He's got
yet.
the red. He's got the red jacket.
This is
too.
first that she's going into the jewelry store. This is before they go riding.
Right. Yep. Sorry.
And he sees her and is like, "Well, I guess I'm going to stick around." And it's like, "Yeah, why would you? Where are you going to go? Like, where do you think you're going to go, sir?"
This actually, that is one thing this movie doesn't do that I was like disappointed by, but like he should have found the edge of the map.
Or they should have done what they do in Ghosts on the show, where like when they go to the barrier, when they go through it, they just immediately come right back in.
Yeah, something like that. Any way that you like wanted to do, but I just like I wanted him to try to drive. Like I wanted him to get the car and be like, "I'm getting the hell out of here," and then like he drives and then he pops up on the other side of town, coming back into town.
Exactly,
like
exactly that.
Any way you want to play it, like there's 100 choices, but I wanted to see him like, "I'm getting the hell out of here," and then can't would be funny.
Yeah, or if he's like driving on the open road and then the trees just keep moving, or like and the trees aren't moving. But his car the wheels are spinning and he's like something.
Yeah, there's like you could do a rear projection thing. There's like so many ways you could take this.
So now
you could just do like a Roger Rabbity, like he hits the wall and the vehicle stops. He can't.
I like that.
He like gets out.
It just depends on the vibe you're going for.
Yeah. He like tries to walk and he's like pushing on the wall like a mime. And
it's like the Christmas episode of Bob's Burgers where there's the mural.
Yes. Yeah. Like there's just so many ways you could have done it. I couldn't believe they didn't do this. And then I was, of course, like literally primed my pen to be like, oh, here's the Uber driver joke. I'm like, hey, you trying to get out of the movie? You're too important for the movie. You got to get back in there, champ. And he smacks him on the butt.
So now Rachel and the doctor are going horseback riding in fox gear, like you said. And John Candy is in his hotel room, I guess. And he realizes that they had Renee Taylor mentioned earlier that they're going to kill Rachel in a horseback riding accident. And he's like, oh, I have to save her.
Yeah. And so he writes himself in as like a Indiana Jones type. Also, just a quick pause. It is a hotel he's staying at, but it seems like more like a bed and breakfast. And there's a real missed opportunity. Yeah. But there's a real missed opportunity for like not having the innkeeper as a character who he's like bouncing off of a little bit here.
Yeah.
Like an old lady or an old man or some combination thereof of just like who's like helping him, or, you know, that he like recognizes as like a bit player, like the cashier on Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like there's just like ways that this could be part of it that I think would be funny, and they just don't do any of it.
Or if like they every time he walks into the hotel, it's a different person behind the counter. Like that's also funny in the world of soap operas, where they're just like, whatever, replace them, who cares?
Yeah, it's an extra, and or like they pointedly don't speak to him because they can't, because they're an extra.
They're not being paid. Yeah.
There's one. I was watching Elf for job training, and there's a really funny moment at the escalator scene where Will Ferrell is trying to have a conversation with one of the extras, and the extra cannot speak, and so is like really wildly gesturing to Will Ferrell should go on the escalator first. And every time I see it, I crack up at like, this poor man is like, you can see in his eyes, he's like, I'm not allowed to talk to you. Go. he's very much like, I can't do improv with you. I'm not being paid for that.
I would love to, Will, but I can't.
If I talk, I'll get fired. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, any number of these things would be good and left on the table. Sorry, you were talking about the he comes to the rescue here as the Indiana Jones type.
You said that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You cut yourself off.
I did. That's unusual. But yeah, so he's like full Indiana Jones. He saves her. He like gallops alongside her.
Like, I'm surprised he didn't have a lasso or a whip. Like, yes. I'm surprised he didn't have a prop.
Yeah, for sure. And then he, after saving her, like falls down the side of his horse, but is still stuck in the saddle.
It's a nice little horse chase. He saves her, and he's like, "Well, I'll be going." And I was like, "Well, wait, what? You don't?
Yeah,
you don't want to like
have sex with this woman, aren't you?"
Yeah. And so he like gallops a bit away, and then turns and does a like final, like a freeze frame pose.
Hi ho, Silver. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "She wants me," and then he falls off the horse and gets saved by
Mariel
Janet.
Hemingway. Yeah, Mariel Hemingway sees this and comes to his rescue.
She works with ants.
Yes, which is like this is another one that like at the end when they like are doing the callbacks is very, very strange.
Well, she does say that she had a weird dream, so I think it's implied that she had the same dream.
Yeah, agreed. But I also think that's weird, to be clear.
Yeah, it's not clear.
So we go to the dinner table with the rich family, and I love there's this enormous planter with flowers in it in the middle of the table, and everyone is like trying to lean to the left or the right to have their conversations. But
was
can't
that
quite
bit ever
figure out
in
which way.
a Mel Brooks movie? Because it feels primed for like.
Yeah. It's just a very good, stupid joke of like this person leans left and actually they're on the right, so I have to go back the other way.
And then Eye Patch stands up and looks down Rachel's blouse, and I was like, oh, she's not his sister, and then immediately forgot that I wrote that note.
That's very funny. I did not pick up on that. I was like, what are we doing here? This is like real early for this whole stepsister business.
Well, because they said a couple lines that were like, she's your sister. Well, what if she wasn't? And like a couple like, or what if I'm not? Like there was something. I said maybe he's not a real brother, so maybe I thought he was good because he kept saying, "I'm your son. I'm not your son," or like he kept joking like that. So I was like, oh, maybe
that would make sense.
And so this is where we learned that it's a miracle drug that makes you skinny and burns all your fat and carbs and sugar. And it's like, oh boy,
it's Ozempic.
It's Ozempic.
It's Ozempic.
Except it's not for people with diabetes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if it burns all your fats and sugar, it might be for people with diabetes.
Maybe. Yeah. Janet's dad's lab gets trashed, and she thinks Candy's behind it.
Yeah. Who she was supposed to sell the formula to, so I'm not really sure how that makes any sense. I guess she thought he was just going to like steal the formula and not pay her.
The Formuoli, in SpongeBob words. Did you never watch that episode?
I never watched a single episode of SpongeBob. I'm too old for it. No way. Yeah, I'm too old for that show.
A lot of college kids were watching SpongeBob when it came out.
I mean, maybe, but I've never watched that show, and I find it crazy when people who are about my age who watched it. It started in 99. I was already 12. So, yeah, I was way too old for that.
No, you were not 12. SpongeBob's not a child show. SpongeBob is not a baby show.
But I'm just saying, I was like, that was decidedly for babies. I was not watching that show.
It was not a baby show. They did a sequel, a spinoff for babies.
I was watching wrestling by then.
They did a Muppet Babies for SpongeBob, but
okay. So Hemingway's tied up, and these guys are like, we have this acid, we're gonna burn you, and they like burn the arm of her chair, and then a stained glass window appears in the wall, and she's like, where the hell did that window come from? And Candy comes absolutely smashing through it.
It's because it like fades into view as you hear the typewriter clacking, which I loved.
Yeah. And yes, I wanted more of this.
Well, I wanted that, but then he starts like kung fu fighting, and I'm like, well, this doesn't feel like a soap opera anymore.
Right. I also like, he should be a blundery fighter. Like it's more funny if John Candy is like, oh, whoa, don't hit me. And he like, when he puts his arm up, he knocks something off the wall and it knocks the guy over. You know? Like,
he needs to be more of a
doofus.
Not Snake Plissken, the one from Big Trouble Little China.
Yes. Jack something.
Yeah. Not Dawson, not Reacher, not Russell.
I just read the fucking comic books too. This is driving me insane.
Oh, they were comic books? Big Trouble?
Yeah, there's a comic book sequel.
Oh, I didn't know that. Whatever.
Yeah,
Jack.
It's okay. It's not great. My brain is like Jack Warner, Jack Palance. No, none of that.
I keep Jack Russell.
Jack Burton.
Trick or Treat just did a comic book sequel.
I did not look that up, to be clear. Oh, I'll look for that too. My library had these, believe it or not.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. They had all but the first book. I guess someone like destroyed it or lost it, so I had to bootleg the first book, but I read the rest of them. It's okay, not great.
So he has this fight sequence which feels a little out of place. And then
he's like, when it gets silly where he like picks up a spear and then he deflects bullets and then he like catches a knife in his hands and throws the knife back into the holster. That stuff's okay.
It just doesn't feel like soap opera world, which feels like where we're living in.
Yeah.
Like if he had walked in and been like, well, you gentlemen, you know, if you kill her, you'll never get the antidote to the poison you drank earlier when you walked into the mansion.
Yeah.
Something more in that world.
Or just like he has a gun.
That too. Yeah, sure.
Like he breaks through the window and he's got a pistol in each hand and he's like, get the hell out of here. Or
he's got one very ornate, pretty pistol. It's like pearl and golden. Rich people in a soap opera.
I was thinking he like shoots both of their like
guns out of their hand.
Yeah, something like that. Just like I'm a ridiculous shot, and if you don't leave, your next one's going in your forehead kind of thing.
He's still fighting the fact that he's Jack Gates, who is the Wall Street guy.
And in fighting the guy, hit a button on the table that revealed a secret compartment where the formula is.
Yeah, which that feels kind of soap opera-y.
Yeah. Then he leaves with Mariel Hemingway, and he's trying to parallel park, and he can't. He just keeps smashing into the cars around him, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, I like that.
And we find out that her food order at a diner is
a deli. At a deli.
Deli, yes, sorry. Is lox and cream cheese on cinnamon toast?
Which, like, cream cheese on cinnamon toast, sure. Lox and cream cheese, yeah. Those three things don't go together.
I remember when that woman from Sex and the City was running for mayor in New York, she got, like, lox on a cinnamon raisin bagel and then was, like, insistent that it was good.
Oh, was that Cynthia Nixon?
Yeah, that's who it is, yes.
That's weird.
No, the time Sarah Jessica Parker ran for mayor.
Well, there are 4 women in that show. I didn't think SJP ran for mayor.
Come on, do you think Samantha ran for mayor?
No, but the boring brunette probably could have.
Yeah, the boring brunette.
Whose name I do not know. Charlotte? I don't know the actress's name, but it's Charlotte.
I think that's right. I think that's Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that's the, and then in the real world that's also her order.
Right, that he's like, oh, I know who that is. Like, that freak can only be the woman I love.
Yeah. I love that he wrote in this New York deli into this small town. And she's like, when did this open? He's like, a couple hours ago.
Yeah, and it's also the exact same staff as his actual deli. Like, it's
which I love.
Yeah, that sort of Wizard of Ozzy blending of stuff.
Also, I just love a New York deli sandwich. Like, I want pastrami on rye, not on a Kaiser.
Yeah,
he does a Kaiser. I want pastrami on rye with mustard and pickles.
Kaiser roll is a poor choice to me. Trip turns to his right and finds a steaming hot pastrami on rye with a large selection of half sour and full sour pickles, as well as pickled beets.
Yeah, I love
the celery, which he's never had the gumption to try, but wants to.
Wait, what was that one that you want to try?
Dr. Brown's makes a celery soda called Celery.
Oh yeah, because that's the one that, like, they always call them seltzers, but they're not seltzers. They're full sugar sodas.
Yeah, but I've always been curious about the Celery, and I really want to get. Next time I go up there, I'm just going to bite the bullet and pay the $4 for the weird soda.
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to find it online.
I mean, I will probably find it in a number of places, but it feels like you should eat it. We should drink it while eating a pastrami on rye.
That's true. They have a sweet little deli date, and then we get this outdoor auction, which what was it for? A museum in town? I was not clear.
It's like the town historical society, maybe. It's very sort of hand waved.
Rachel is on the poster for the auction, but then her dad is buying everything, and it's like, well,
right,
like
well,
at her behest.
I thought it was like, the rich guy wants to publicly show off his money and is doing that for that reason.
I don't know, the idea of a rich white man in a soap opera not hoarding his wealth.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like he wants to be known as a philanthropist publicly, and so he wants to make the most public donation possible.
Yeah, give a big check. Make a giant check. Candy shows up and donates his Ferrari to the auction. And then bids on it himself. Also, we find out that the main lady,
Janet or Rachel is conspiring with her doctor boyfriend to have her brother murdered. She keeps he's giving the brother medicine that is killing him.
Yeah, slowly
Dylan
killing
Baker,
him.
Who plays the brother. Yeah, but yes, he bids on it himself. Which again, just like a show of ostentatious wealth, I guess.
I was like, if we had seen. I don't know, the whole him writing things into the like,
right.
If he had seen her, like he donated the Ferrari and then he sees her go, I want that. Doctor boyfriend bid on it. And then he was like, ooh, let me type on my typewriter.
Yeah. John Candy has a briefcase with $1 million in it.
Yeah, exactly. And he wins his own Ferrari like it's the freaking Addams Family.
It is very strange. And then this is where we get that fun thing where, he wins the car, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a ride home, Rachel." And she's like, "No, I have any number of ways to get home." And every single person who would give her a ride suddenly has something to do and can't do it.
The dad specifically gets the exact same cable problem John Candy had in the beginning, and he has to wait for the cable guy.
And then the brother is like picking out furniture or something. It's all very silly.
And then this is where I was like, oh, I like that the characters are kind of acknowledging, like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, why do you need your cable fixed right now? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I have black bars on 2 and 7.
So as he's driving her home, he's like, how about a little game of trust? And he blindfolds himself and just starts driving recklessly, which, again, I would have loved to see him write, like, he doesn't crash the car at all.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this sequence goes on a little bit too long for me. And then, like,
Janet gets splashed with mud, and then her car goes over the edge, and she's, like, clinging to the side of it.
Yeah, and then Mariel Hemingway... Oh, yeah, that's right. The car goes over, and then she's, like, pulling on the tailgate, trying to keep it from going down the cliff.
And instead she ends up, like, hanging out the window of it, like her arms inside the window.
Yeah, she, like, hops into the truck and, like, tries to climb in, I guess, to get to the brakes.
And then they keep driving, doing crazy stunts and bits, and then her truck flies right in front of them, and they almost hit it.
Yeah.
The doctor boyfriend is now going crazy and guilty about slowly killing Dylan Baker, her brother.
Dylan Baker's, like, slow descent is very, very well done and very funny. Where, like, at one point he's like, my gums are bleeding. And then the next time we see him, he's got, like, half of his hair is missing, and he, like, runs his hand through
his finger through it, and it's a clump.
Yeah.
It's very, like, comedy version of The Fly.
Yes. And then at one point he, like, rubs an eyebrow, and the whole eyebrow comes off, and he, like, looks at it.
He's got a goiter the size of a grapefruit in his neck.
Yeah. He really plays this very, very well. And, like, at one point, his, like, teeth fall out in the sink. It's pretty gnarly, but still stays funny, which is rare for that kind of stuff for me.
And this is an out of character reference for me, but they're really Fredoing this eye patch guy, who again wasn't in the real world. So
yes, yeah.
Who is he?
Who this is. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch the beginning at the first 20 minutes to be like, maybe he was there and we just did not notice him. Yeah, he might be
there for a passing second. I feel like I would remember a guy with a fucking eye patch.
Well, maybe he didn't have an eye patch in the show.
I guess that's true.
And then he tries to break a vase and it just bounces, and the dad's like, you can't even do that right.
Yeah.
I forgot that John Candy told Janet he would have dinner with her. I must have fully missed that scene.
Yeah, same. I also was like, whoosh on this one.
Because she's making dinner and it's clearly like, he's just late. And I'm like, who's late? John Candy?
Yeah, right.
And then the real Jack Gates shows up and it's number 2.
I hear the voice. I'm like, is that fucking Robert Wagner? And sure enough, it is alleged murderer Robert Wagner.
Wait, what?
Oh, he almost certainly, allegedly killed Natalie Wood.
Oh, shit. I've heard that story so many times, and I've never put it together that that's Robert Wagner.
It's on the boat was Robert Wagner.
And Walken.
Christopher Walken, yeah.
Yeah, 100% yes, he did. I never put together that number 2 was Natalie Wood's psychotic husband at the time.
No, not her husband.
Yeah.
He was also married.
No, he was married to Natalie Wood.
I don't know that that's right.
Who was Natalie Wood's husband then?
I don't know. I thought Robert Wagner was married and his wife was on the boat.
No, I thought Natalie Wood was his husband, was his wife. And
oh, you're right. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I got that part wrong.
Because she was filming a movie with Walken, and he was like, I need to go make sure that I'm not going to make a fool of myself with this. And then the boat thing happened.
Got it. Yeah, you're right. It was Wagner, Walken, and the captain of the boat.
That's so many things in my head are just like shifting now because I've heard the Natalie Wood story so many times, like videos and whatever, and I never clicked that Robert Wagner is number 2 from Austin Powers. Like he's number 2, and then I know Robert Wagner is a famous person. I never made. Yes. Wow, okay, that's a bummer. That's the only downside to the Austin Powers movies.
Sorry.
Everything else about him holds up. There's not a lot of grossness and
but he's the real Jack Gates
because it's sweeps week.
Yeah, Which is it's a pretty solid little joke there.
Yeah. Even though, is that still a thing?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Huh. I guess I don't watch shows that really do sweeps week stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's definitely still a thing on television in general.
Like I'm sure like Grey's Anatomy does that kind of shit, but that's probably every week for them.
Well, like I worked with a woman who worked in local news for years and years, and she talked about it being a big thing for them. That like we wanted to make sure we had a big, cool like our morning show had to have cool stuff for Sweeps Week. The local, the locally produced morning show.
Interesting.
Not like, the bigger thing. Anyway,
he gets shot and immediately killed.
Yeah, that's right.
By Fredo with the eye patch and a sniper gun.
He narrowly avoids the assassination via the bell ringing.
Mm-hmm. No, originally, yeah. John Candy originally does when he walks into the inn, and then this happens. And I like the blood effect of the blood disappearing from the shirt as John Candy is like, oh, I have to save Robert Wagner. Type.
Yeah.
But then writes him out of the show.
And he just like disappears.
Well, he disappears, but then he's out front saying, I need a flight to Cleveland. And it's like, well,
yeah.
Why did he have to disappear?
Right. It's just because John Candy wrote exterior hotel. Wagner. Yeah.
And then he tries to write Janet away back to Africa, and he's successful, but then she gets called back right away.
Yeah. It's like, well, what are the rules here? Who's in charge here? How is this possible?
Like, because if the idea that like it's self-sustaining but you can influence is kind of cool.
Yes, but it never really explains any of that, of course.
No. And then Rachel and the doctor are driving, and we get a call back to the blindfold driving thing, and it looks like the doctor dies, but he doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, they should both be dead because it's impossible to drive blindfolded.
Well, no, they smash cut to his car's being pulled out of the water, and he's like stiff in a crazy face, and
has like a road sign in the back seat of the convertible,
and she's like soaking wet, like wobbling down the dock, pushing people off, and they say like she narrowly avoided death, and I was like, oh, so he died, and then he shows up 10 seconds later, and I was like, oh, also we get another Len sighting.
Another who?
Len, the weird problematic character.
Yeah, yes, who's like just getting the car out of the swamp and just shaking his head.
John Candy's getting drunk, I guess, which not really clear why he decided to get drunk.
Right, and he's like actively making typos and is like, can't be making typos. And it's like, oh, I guess this is Chekhov's typos?
Which I have to say, I loved the few minutes of typo work here, but I needed more of this.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Like he shows up and someone goes, you did a great job. The old man exits left, and he's like, oh no, I have him reading stage directions. And then a reindeer comes in the house with snow coming down, and they go, he needs an ice cold deer. The bartender needs more ice cold deer instead of beer. I don't remember what the other one was, but there was one other one.
The cheerleader from his high school crush.
He wrote his cheerleader crush from high school into the show, and I was like, more of this part.
Right. Yeah, this kind of like him being like, what the hell did I do? And then it getting more and more ridiculous. Like, I wanted the old man to be like, by the way, I'm your neighbor or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I wanted him to also be some person he wanted respect from and never got.
Or if it was his writer friend that disappears out of this movie.
Yeah, also good. Yeah.
Well, also he says, what did I write last night? And it's like, so you wrote stuff last night and it's happening? I thought it was pretty instantaneous.
Yeah, but I think he was writing the scene that was happening
the party.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, we see Dylan Baker again here, and I was
They're
reminded
doing such great work on his makeup.
He looks a lot like the guy at the end of Not Another Teen Movie, who's like in love with Lainey, but he keeps like he gets hit by it. Chris Evans' character is like chasing down Lainey to be like, Lainey, I love you at the airport. And this guy is the best friend character who's also in love with Lainey, and he's trying to chase her down, but he gets like hit by a car, attacked by a pack of dogs. And so by the time he gets to the airport, he's like, the woman I love is getting on a plane. And they're like, we already heard that story. Shut up. But he's like bleeding. Oh, because
that's the Melissa Joan Hart scene when he tries to do the slow clap. Is that scene?
Yes, that character. And then I think Melissa Joan Hart steals his slow clap at the end.
I think so. I think that's correct.
Also, he gives someone the Heimlich maneuver, and it's like, the
doctor didn't know how to do the Heimlich.
Yes, the doctor's like hugging the man face to face.
Also, when Janet got sent to Africa and the telegram saying come back said it was from the rich man, the patriarch of the rich family, and then we find out he didn't send that telegram, but he's still letting the woman stay in the house.
And it turns out it was from a nurse who's got a crush on the doctor,
who was rejected by the doctor for Rachel. And we find out that Janet comes down wearing the white dress that she loved so much earlier in the movie, but then has a trip and fall.
It's a little too wedding dressy.
It's very bridal. It's very bridal.
Like, you could have a white dress that doesn't seem bridal, but this one does.
It's got the pearls and the sequins and the lace. Yeah.
Yeah.
She trips and it rips into a short dress that we never really see again.
Right. Also, we did gloss over Candy having a whole dance number with Rachel.
That
happens right before the wedding dress entrance. It's not a big deal, but they do like the lambada or something.
Hang on, I'm trying to find out where because I wrote that down. Oh, dance sequence by a fountain.
Yeah.
Oh, then the nurse.
When we find out.
Yeah, we find out the nurse sent for Janet.
And that Hemingway's formula is missing, and she thinks that
he gave it to Rachel because Rachel told him to, but was tricking him the whole time.
Right.
But now wants him. We find out Janet and Rachel were switched at birth. The whole love triangle thing.
Which is like a fun soap opera reveal. Like, I like that.
But the problem is that, like, they're trying to do so much in, like, the last, 15, 20 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, we're on the fast forward at this point.
Because, so he's been, like, courting Rachel, and then Janet comes in and trips down the stairs, and he's immediately smitten with her. And then Rachel shows up, and it's like, oh, right, 2 women. And it's like, okay, this is not well paced. Like, this needs to have built.
Right. And the fact that it's like very clearly, because it's a movie, it's like we know that this is building that he's gonna fall for the woman,
of course, with glasses and a braid,
right? Yeah, and it's just like, all right, like, can we get like any interaction? Like, they barely interact.
Yeah, they're barely on screen together.
Right.
And then Doc comes clean to Dylan Baker about Rachel being behind him poisoning him.
And this is when he loses his teeth in the sink, and I was just like, ugh.
I know. John Candy is now super over Rachel.
And Hemingway goes like just complete full wrestling heel turn. She's now in a black dress, and she's a bitch. Where did this come from?
Which I was like, what's happening here? And he goes, oh, they're just using her to completely replace Rachel when they fire her. They still need a bitch. So
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, that's bad writing.
And also, it's like, obviously it's a stupid movie and like, who cares? Or it's a stupid soap opera, who cares? But like, the idea that you would raise a woman or boy, all through their life from baby to adulthood, find out that they were biologically not your child and this other person is, and be like, well, get the fuck out. This is my kid now. It's just completely insane.
Well, I think it's also more that now that it's with money, money goes by blood. So
right.
She can't inherit now.
I mean, you could just like make it official, like adopt this person. There's like any number of solutions that aren't like, get the fuck out, I hate you now.
Well, no one likes Rachel except John Candy.
That's true. Rachel does suck.
And so Janet gets shot by Dylan Baker, who comes in to try and shoot Rachel, and then there's a scuffle, and Rachel is like, oh, she's bleeding on the floor. And John Candy tries to choke her out.
Yeah.
Like, full on Homer Simpson, Bart Simpson.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great. And like, she's getting blood all over the parquet.
So Janet gets taken to the hospital, and then Rachel says, hey, doctor, make sure she doesn't survive her surgery. And Dylan Baker hears. And so everyone's going to the hospital, and then the cable guy shows up. So the dad has to stay behind for the cable guy.
And then John Candy hits Dylan Baker with his car. And when he gets out, like, oh my God, Dylan Baker's like, don't worry about me. They're going to kill Janet. Go get Janet.
Oh, also, we forgot, John Candy broke his typewriter in a rage.
Oh, that's right. He did throw it across the room earlier.
So now he has to call the local typewriter shop across the town square.
This is actually my favorite scene in the movie. I think this is
very
funny.
Well shot.
But it's also, go ahead.
It's intercut with Janet going into surgery and John Candy on the phone with this old man in a bath, this beleaguered old man in a bathrobe. And so like John Candy reaches for something, and then it's like quick cuts to the doctor's hand reaching for something in the same position. It's like a lot of really nice editing in this sequence.
It's also like the guy who's walking him through the typewriter repair is sweating bullets and dabbing at his forehead. And like, it's treated with such urgency.
It's treated as though it's defusing a bomb. He's like, there are 3 holes, the large hole in the middle. You cannot touch either hole on either side.
You make sure the spring is fully through, and then the spring goes like launching across the room. Treating something so silly with such seriousness is just a very successful,
it's
funny
good
movie.
Comedy.
Yeah.
He finally fixes it, and then Robert Wagner shows up with a gun, which like
as he's like typing it, he's like, "Fuck you, Robert Wagner," and Robert Wagner's like, "I'm putting a gun at you," and he's like, "Yeah, type."
Which like, but I don't get why Robert Wagner came back. Like it doesn't make sense. He's like, I sent you to Cleveland, and he's like, that's why you have to die. It's like, but why did you come back?
Right, and also, I thought like, what is the timing between when you got sent to Cleveland and now? Was it like 1 hour? Like, did you just go to Cleveland, get off the plane, and get back on a different plane?
I thought people weren't fighting what John Candy wrote. I thought they were confused by it, but they did it.
Right. And in this case, he's like, no, I know that you sent me there. I'm going to kill you.
So he shoots John Candy, and he gets kind of blown back with his typewriter and wakes up on the set, but this time it's actually the set. Yeah,
and he immediately starts berating Rachel, which is very funny.
Calls her a bitch, a selfish bitch, and is yelling at the doctor. And I love this moment here where he like very condescendingly gently fires Rachel. He's like, you're such a kind person. Look what I've done to you. I'm going to make sure you get some time off from the show. And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, a long time off from the show.
And she's like, no, you're going to give me a brain tumor too. And he like pats her on the shoulder and escorts her out of the place.
And so he runs outside to be like, the woman auditioning for Janet. And then it's dark out. It's like midnight, I guess.
Yeah.
So he...
Because like he was leaving. It was dark when he was leaving.
Yeah, they were driving away.
Why would you... But then Mariel Hemingway is still in the building. She's like in the lobby on the phone. Or wait, is that the next day?
The next day.
Okay.
I think. Wait.
No, you're right.
It is. You're right. Because then he goes back to talk to Jerry Orbach and Renee Taylor and be like, hey, I know you hired this hack. I'll stay on, but we're going to do things my way. And Renee Taylor starts choking, and he's like, I know the Heimlich. And like, we'll do it. And he's like, do I get what I want? And even she's such like New York power bitch that she's choking, being like, don't give in. Don't do it.
Yeah. Like, I'd rather die.
I would rather die.
And Orbach does give in, and he Heimlichs her, and she's like, I can't believe you gave him what he wanted.
And then he goes and punches the hack writer. And I got ahead of myself. I wrote, oh, he finds Janet and then I had to cross it out and write, he walks right past Janet in the lobby.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they were saying it up that he was going to step on her hand again. Fully.
Right. But no, he goes to the deli and he orders his pastrami sandwich. And then as he's leaving, he hears, cinnamon toast with cream cheese and lox. Get this out of here. And he just goes like running back, and there she is.
She does eat that, and then she defends ants, but it's like, I don't like ants. And I was like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
And Candy gets sprayed in the face.
Yeah, he gets maced
by the bug spray that they're using to kill the ants. That's very confusing. Her being like, I don't like ants. I don't know why I defended him. It's like, well, did he write that? Like, when did he? Like, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. So he gets her the part of Janet on the show, and she's not going to be a bitch. And the show is great, and Len is back. And definitely not handled well. And he goes, always be yourself, unless you can be Robert Wagner. And I was like, well, now I know. It's like, well, maybe not.
Yeah, and then at the end, there's like sort of an implication that maybe they made Glenn a trans character that was like well regarded and people liked. Oh, Len, not Glenn. Sorry.
It's not. We don't need to go into it because
it's stupid that they wrote it in there. But then also it's like he cursed Laura to Cleveland, I thought, and it's just like, well, wait, does he have a magic fucking typewriter? Because that's a different movie. Like, what's happening?
Unclear.
I would give this the softest of recommends.
If it wasn't so readily available, like it's free on Tubi or Pluto or whatever. Like,
yeah,
sure.
It's a fun Candy performance. He's charming as always. He gets a fair amount to do. This movie could be pretty good and it isn't. So that's always a bummer.
This movie's ripe for a remake.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun idea. Like you could do a lot with this. It could be very entertaining. Honestly, like this feels so in line with so many ideas that have gotten made recently. Like, Schmigadoon. That
I always
Apple
mean to watch
show. It's fine, but
it's not for you. It's for me.
I know. I feel like on the right side of the bell curve for like no shit about musicals because of you growing up. Like I feel like I get more of it than most people. But you know, the whole like time loop thing is like a big thing right now. Like we've gotten so many time loop movies in the last 10 years. And so I just feel like this fits right in with that of like, you know, he gets conked on the head and he wakes up in the soap opera that he writes. It's a funny idea. It could be very successful. So yeah, I think you're right for a remake.
Like there was it Rebel Wilson who in that romantic comedy movie?
Isn't It Romantic has a similar premise as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a cute movie.
Yeah, I agree. I watched it 3 times in 2 days when I was very sick on the boat.
Oh, that's right. I was like, it was a plane movie? No, it was a boat movie. It was a plane and a boat movie.
It was a boat movie because I couldn't get off the couch on the cruise ship because I had the spins. But yeah, it's like the soft as it recommends. There's like some fun stuff here, but overall the movie's kind of like sloppy.
Yeah, you don't have to, but my part of the recommending is that like you don't have to search hard. It's not like it's out of print and whatever. Like
you don't have to go seek this out.
Pop it on
it's
and
very
whatever.
Easy to find. Yeah. So it's got its moments. Thank you so very much for joining us for Candy-ed Yams. As we have told you in the past, we had to move listener request month around. So our first December show will be Bloodsport, which was a listener request month back this summer. So that'll be filling that in, and then we'll have a more standard December episode as well as Nightmare Before Christmas coming out Christmas Day on the Patreon feed. So go on over to patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and check that out. You can get that and more than 26 other bonus episodes right away at the $5 tier. So patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and now Blue Sky. We're Dissecting the 80s on Facebook and Blue Sky. We're Dissect the 80s on Twitter, but I would like to not be on there anymore at the end of this year. So that is
we can delete that. We can firmly delete that.
That's the goal, to migrate off of there. But if there's anywhere else you'd like to see us, please let us know. It's helpful to hear from y'all where we'd like to see our stuff. So that's very useful information. Thank you again so very much for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.